Do you remember when you were young and it mattered? Do you like him? And let's talk a little bit about like. But like matters more than love is what you're about to find out. So let me ask you this. Do you like the narcissistic person in your life? Think about who it is. It might be more than one, but think about who this might be. Partner, co-parent, friend, colleague, maybe a parent or a sibling. And let's focus on big personal relationships like family members, partners, relationships that you're still in. Do you like them? That's what I'm asking you. Do you like them? Do you like these narcissistic people who are, or maybe were in your life? If I could do some sort of magical YouTube poll on this, I'm expecting that close to 90% of you would say no. However, if I asked you if you loved them, especially those of you with narcissistic parents, that number of no's won't be so high. I bet lots of you would say, I love my parent. I love my mom. And let's take the whole narcissism thing out of here and say, and or to ask really, do you have people where you feel you love them, but you don't really like them? What's happening there? I run into this with survivors all the time when it's parents, less so partners. People will say once they get it and they understand narcissism and how it works and the betrayals and the abuse pile up, the love and the like are both gone. But you would be struck how many people who are stuck in pretty dreadful narcissistic relationships still say that they love their partner, even though they don't really like them. Sometimes with siblings or grandparents or other family members, we will run into this. I mean, a person will say, it's my brother, so sure, I love him, but if I never saw him again, I'd be fine too. So you love him, but if you never saw him again, you'd be okay? But when it comes to parents, this hits hard. I love my mother. I love my father. She's my mother. It's my dad. I can't stand the woman, but I love her. This is the love-like paradox. In the case of parents, when I'm working with folks, when I push beyond the surface, what I hear is a sense of beholdenness about their parents. They'll say, they gave me life, they fed me as a baby, they gave me shelter, they kept me, got me clothes. So I guess that must be experienced as they met my fundamental needs when I could not do those things for myself. So that must be love. Or it becomes a sort of trauma-bonded answer that doesn't get at the core of it. Someone tells me that they love a manipulative, invalidating, critical parent, and I ask them to tell me more about that, and they say, well, it's my mom. I love her, obviously. It's unfortunate because it sets up a problematic precedent for this issue of love for folks with narcissistic and abusive parents of all kinds. The word love and the experience get co-opted. Love becomes obligation. Love becomes requirement. Love becomes transaction. You were my parent. You did a terrible job, but you were my parent, so I love you. And this sets up the foundation for trauma-bonded stuff for a lifetime. People who cannot get out of these cycles with parents will say, I love this parent because they are my parent. And then they remain in contact with them for all the reasons it feels impossible to cut away from families of origin, showing up at Sunday dinners or holidays, or even living close by, and living in that contorted space of, I love my parent and I feel awful, or can you believe what they said? Or ruminating after spending time with them about the gaslighting or the passive aggression or whatever it is. The narcissistic parent isn't just an ongoing problem in adulthood. If you remain in contact with them, it shifts your emotional DNA to a place where it becomes a potentially problematic roadmap for other relationships. Your relationship guidebook basically becomes that you're not enough, you have to prove yourself, and love is obligation. love can then get poisoned. You might even be able to look at old birthday cards or something, or old messages that say, "Love, Mom," or "We love you." And it was being said to you simultaneously while you were being silenced. Love meant, be what I want, exist for me, and we'll just send you cute little messages. Not a good guidebook. So let's focus on the like of it all, because that may be the money shot when it comes to relationships. Love is sheer nonsense in narcissistic relationships. It's too convoluted. There's too much trauma-bonded crap, all the obligation. There's all the stuff with what society tells us to feel. But like, that's what matters. When we like people, we enjoy being with them. They make us smile. We probably feel seen, heard, valued. Our interactions are pleasant. We may look forward to them. We may feel safe. We might either look forward to seeing them, like I said, or at the very least, we don't dread seeing them. We may like people we see infrequently, or even just in passing, and we may like people we see every day. For people who have been through narcissistic relationships, like is big. It's where a more thinking part of us, a more well-formed, adult, discerning part of us is firing. And we function better in relationships where we like the person. And probably we don't love most of these people we like because it may not be appropriate, right? It's not the nature of the relationship. But back to these narcissistic people you love, but absolutely do not like. What's that about? When you take the like out of the love, what happens? When you take the like out of the love, that's what's left. What's left is the trauma bond and the unhealthy stuff. Because the like quite often is the healthy stuff of a relationship. The reciprocity, the mutuality of regard, wanting to spend time with them, the back and forth, and seeing each other and having each other's backs and listening to each other. It's warmth, it's compassion, it's respect. When we like someone, we feel this, right? Listen, if it's a passing interaction, I don't know, some walk by their desk at work, you may like someone because they're warm and nice. I mean, you may not know them very well, so who the hell knows if they're a decent human being? You'd have to spend some time with them to figure that out. But if over time you get to know them and their warmth sustains, that warmth you met, that remains that warmth, and it doesn't ever feel manipulative or gaslighty or intense, you got something there. That's like. Now, love can confuse us. And it is often because we may persist at love even when it's not good for us. We keep trying to please the parent. We keep trying to get the partner to notice us. Love makes us do stupid things. Like doesn't. And because the template of the narcissistic relationship is sacrifice in the name of love, and love seems like such a big and important thing, we keep doing it. And it can take a lot of work to break out of these cycles. We rarely think about marrying or committing to someone we like. We have to love them. When is the last time you ask someone who says they love someone, do you ask them like, well, do you like them? We give love a free pass, as though it is inclusive of like. But in narcissistic relationships, it rarely is. And especially when it comes to narcissistic parents. It's generally an obligatory and perhaps a socially acceptable thing to say, I love my parents. That tends to land well in conversation. Saying, I don't like my parents, not so much. Frankly, if everyone did marry or commit to someone they like and gave up on as much of the love, we might very well see fewer divorces, breakups, and I would probably get to pack up my tent and stop talking about this. Listen, don't get me wrong. Love is beautiful and powerful and all that stuff. But when it becomes the reason that people are stuck in unhealthy cycles and blame themselves, when it becomes the foundation of the endless trauma-bonded cycles, when it becomes a sort of hollow recitation of why we stay close to someone, we lose ourselves. When you say you love your parent, break it down. What does that mean? At a minimum, if it's a sense of obligation for the use of their womb or the food or the shelter, be clear on that. And be clear that that is what you're calling love. Or maybe the good memories you do have, that's what you're calling love. But also be clear on the like. If you don't like them, why not? Because that's when the conversation becomes uncomfortable. But understanding what you don't like, even though you say you love, this is how you foster and get to radical acceptance. Healing from narcissistic relationships is about uncrazying yourself, about feeling you love someone who you can't stand being with. Break that down. And for most survivors of narcissistic relationships, this love-like, understanding this is crucial. I remember having to tell years ago a narcissistic person in my life that I didn't like them. So to soften it, I said some BS about how I loved them, but didn't like them. When I look back, I didn't love them either. I said I loved them because it was a deeply held rationalization, because it was a fawn, and it probably left me feeling safer to tell them I loved them. And we can really be great salespeople with ourselves. We can sell ourselves on anything to avoid greater fears of abandonment, of not being enough, of being wrong, of being replaced. And part of that sales job is to tell ourselves that we love them. It was courageous for me to say to that person that I didn't like them. It was cowardly for me to say that I still loved them. So do the breakdown. Look at your relationships. If you don't like and you say you just love, that's probably an indicator of a trauma bond, of an obligatory relationship. Listen, folks, it's okay to not love or not like your parents and just view it as a byproduct of the bad luck of the life casino. You can even appreciate that maybe your parent simply wasn't equipped to be a parent or ready or had their own traumas. You can also feel all of that and still not like or love them. This is that capacity to be able to hold on to the multiple truths of these relationships. And when you get to that clarity and you do still feel called to keep showing up with them, you can show up with your eyes wide open instead of convincing yourself these relationships are something they are not. So when you are in relationships that are healthy, you can see them more clearly and foster the healthy ones, where you like them, and if you're lucky, you love them too. But when you pull the like out of the love, what's left is a problem. Thanks again.